My name is Grant Holcomb, and I'm the student organist here at Central Christian Church. I grew up in this church. It's a wonderful place with wonderful people. I'm now a senior organ performance major at the University of Kentucky, and over my formative years as a budding church musician, I've been mentored by our wonderful director of music, Michael Rintamaa, Dr. Kate Covington, among many, many other people, and I'm very grateful. Michael is actually on his way down here. We're getting ready to prepare some service music, and we're going to give this organ a thorough going through. Central is blessed to have this magnificent 1960 Holtkamp pipe organ. The Holtkamp Organ Company is based in Cleveland, Ohio. They are America's longest continuous pipe organ builder. Our instrument was built by the noted organ builder, Walter Holtkamp Sr., and the company is now run by his grandson, Chris. This was one of Walter Sr.'s last instruments. He passed away in 1962, and this was built in 1960, as I said. Michael's not here yet, so how about I give you a quick tour? Our Holtkamp pipe organ has 4 keyboards in total. 3 keyboards that we play with our hands, which we call manuals, and a pedal board that we play with our feet. Each of these has different character, and you can think of them as like a stack of synthesizers in a rock band. They control different banks of sound. For instance, the top keyboard is called the swell division, and all of the swell sounds combined sound like this. The middle keyboard is the main part of the pipe organ called the great division. All of the great sounds combined sound like this. The bottom keyboard is called the choir, and combined, it all sounds like this. The pedal division is where we have the big bass notes. The pedal stops, when I put them on, sound like this. You will probably notice all these buttons or tabs here. These are all called stop tabs. If you've ever heard the expression, pulling out all the stops, the pipe organ is where it comes from. These stops control 4 different families of sound: flutes, strings, reeds, and principals. So basically, you have an orchestra at your hands. The strings sound like this. You have nice little flutes. Principals just sound like an organ. They don't imitate any instrument of the orchestra. Reeds sound like this, and they can be used as solo sounds. Now, there are lots of tabs on this organ, and because it takes time to push down the tabs, you can use them in any combination you desire, by the way, and you can borrow sounds from this keyboard and this keyboard to play on this keyboard by use of these couplers. Because it takes so much time, you can program them so that with the push of one button, it can instantly recall any combination that you want. And with the push of another button, you can cancel them. This organ has tons of tabs, and you notice that some have red dots on them, and some of them do not. The reason for the red dots is that in 1990, a number of analog electronic voices were added to this instrument, and the red dots distinguish which pipes are the original Holtkamp organ, and the ones that do not have red dots are the electronic voices. One more thing I want to show you here at the console. The pipes of this top keyboard here, the swell division, and the pipes of this bottom keyboard, the choir division, are enclosed in these large wooden boxes with flaps on them. And when you look at them, they're reminiscent of Venetian blinds on a window. When you open your Venetian blinds, it lets light into the house, and when you close them, it keeps the light out. It's much the same with the pipe organ. Right now, I can control them with these pedals here. So as I play and I close the pedal, those flaps close. And that's how you control the volume of those particular divisions on the pipe organ. That just about covers everything here at the console, I believe. Let's walk upstairs to the pipe chamber and have a look. All right, here we are in the chamber, surrounded by pipes. There are 2,064 pipes in this organ. What you see along the back wall are the big tall pipes, or the big bass pipes of the pedal division. And these pipes here, these wooden pipes and these metal pipes, finish the upper part of the pedal. Pipes up here made both out of wood and various types of metal. These are the Venetian blind boxes that I was talking about, if you will. This is the bottom keyboard of the pipe organ, the choir division, and you can see how these flaps can be opened or closed. This is the softest sound, and then as you open it, it gets louder. Here is the great division of the pipe organ, which is the middle keyboard. And it clearly speaks right out into the nave of the church. And over here is another stacked cabinet that looks identical to this one. That's the top keyboard, and that's the swell division of the organ. And right here we have these electronic boards you see. And I briefly mentioned the analog electronic editions of 1990, and these are what generate the sound for those voices. Before Michael gets here, I want to quick show you something. I've already powered the instrument off, and you'll notice that the room is completely silent. Here's what it sounds like when I turn it on. And now it's hissing.
Well, I saw Grant's car in the parking lot, so I know he's already here. Sure enough, I can always tell when the organ's on when I walk in the building, because the blower's having to work so hard, it makes so much noise with all of the air going. I already know that he's got the organ on because I can hear it already. Hey, Grant.
Oh, hey, Michael, how's it going?
How's it going with you?
I'm doing great. I was just showing these people our pipe organ.
Sweet. Well, one of the things we haven't done in a little while is double-checked the things that are not working on this pipe organ. I know that a lot of those malfunctions are happening in the pedal. Would you go through one of the pedal stops for us, please?
Sure.
Nothing. 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 No. Nothing. 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 No. Nothing. 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 Let's try the other one. Nothing. 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 And I think there's one or two missing from that reed stop.
Yeah, let's check it.
There it is. Another one. Another one. Another one. Another one. Yeah, we've got a lot of those pipes not sounding. You said that you noticed something about the oboe?
Yeah, it was really stuttering on the lowest note.
Whoa, there's some bad air going on there, that's for sure. And of course, you notice that we're missing half of the pipes in the choir, the 2-foot.
Sure. From this stop up, or from this note up, it's completely. From this note up, it's completely dead.
Yeah. In fact, here's all those pipes. So when you or I or Kate have to play the organ with all of these problems that we've just talked about, there are a number of things that limit us.
Yeah, I mean, specifically, I'm thinking of those pedal notes.
Mm-hmm.
I can't use those individually, so I oftentimes have to layer other stops and other pipes on top to cover up the dead notes. It's almost like having to have 5 singers to sing one stanza of Amazing Grace, because not one of them can sing all of the notes.
Or it's like being an artist and only having one color, the color green, that you have to do your painting with, because you only really have one kind of sound, everything on. If you had different colors, then you could use the sounds more separately.
Absolutely.
People might be surprised to know that one of the main components in building a pipe organ is leather. Leather delivers air throughout the pipe organ to all the different pipes.
Yeah, and I mean, of this era pipe organ, the life expectancy of that leather was around 50 years. And we passed that a long time ago. We're over 60 now. We're at 61 years old on original leather.
When that leather fails because it becomes old and dried out and brittle, then one of two things can happen. Either air can't be delivered to that pipe and that pipe doesn't sound, or air is delivered to that pipe but we can't make it stop from sounding. That's called a cipher, and the only way to fix that is to remove the pipe so it doesn't make any sound.
While I was showing off the organ earlier, I made mention of all the red dots on the stop tabs and talked about how those indicate the original Holtkamp stops versus the added electronic stops.
That's really important. And believe it or not, I actually have a copy of the original 1960 contract. There's some interesting things in it. Let's take a look. Grant, this is a copy of some of the original paperwork from 1960. It has a couple of really interesting things in it. I want you to pay attention closely to some of the dates, and also it's pretty entertaining to look at some of the amounts. So the first date I want you to notice is 7th of April, 1958. So they were talking about this 1960 organ a couple of years in advance of that. And that's important because right around the years at the end of the 50s and into the 60s is also when this church was changing music directors. So they were getting a new organ and they're changing music directors all at the same time. The other thing I want you to notice is the price. They bought this pipe organ in 1960 for $50,000. Now that seems like nothing today, but did you know that a brand new Cadillac in 1960 cost $5,000? So this was 10 times the price of a Cadillac back in 1960. The other thing that I find particularly emotional connecting for me is that the signatory on part of this contract is none other than Herb Sled himself. He helped write some of this contract language with the organ company, and he was the chair of the board of trustees at that time, and so his signature is on it. One of the things that I really had hoped could have happened in the new contract with Holcomb was that we could have had Herb Sled signing yet again on the new contract. Wouldn't that have been beautiful?
Wow, it would have been perfect.
And here's a really interesting point. In a previous contract draft, this instrument was supposed to be a $57,750 instrument, which means that really at the last minute, they had to make a $7,750 cut to this instrument from what it was originally hoped to be. That's the value, as I said before, of a Cadillac and a half.
Brand new.
Taken away from this instrument.
Wow.
in 1990, Bob Kintner tried to address some of those gaps that we talked about from the original instrument, by the original instrument being reduced from $57,750 down to $50,000. He did two big things in 1990. Before 1990, this console did not have either of these wings on either side, and all of the stop tabs of the instrument were in the front. And what he added in 1990 were some state-of-the-art, very original analog electronic organ sounds. And the stop tabs to control all those sounds are all of these that do not have red dots that are all around the organ. There were speakers behind the old reredos in front of the choir. There are speakers upstairs in the chamber, and there are actually speakers in the ceiling. And the big cabinet of organ pipes in the back that we call the antiphonal part of the organ is all electronic as well. Unfortunately, it did not achieve everything that Bob had hoped that it would achieve for this instrument. And so really that is outdated and needs to be removed in a renovation. The other thing that Bob did was shortly before he retired, he had planned to replace several sets of pipes in the swell division of the organ. And so in my first years here, we removed those pipes and replaced them with different pipes. And that also tried to address some of those problems. One of the most unique things about this organ console is related to all the electronic stop tabs that we just talked about that were added in 1990. When those wings of tabs were added to the console, they discovered a small problem. They needed a power boost for all these controls. The solution was one of the most original things I've ever seen in an organ anywhere in the world, and that is that we have an extra power boost from a battery. Originally, this was a car battery attached to a charger, all of which is permanently plugged in. Over the years, this car battery has had to be replaced, and we've been fortunate to have such electronic geniuses around this church, such as Stuart Talbert, who has replaced the battery, Gary Hammonds, and Bill Johnson. All have assisted in replacing our battery every 6 years or so for the organ. This is the only organ that I know of in the world that has a car battery in it.
After I gave the console tour, I made sure to go upstairs and give them a brief, quick overview tour of the organ chamber.
That's great. Let's go back up there, but this time let's point out all the problems.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, here we are up in the organ chamber once again. First of all, notice that there's different shapes and different makes of pipes. Metal pipes, wooden pipes, pipes with caps, pipes that don't have caps, and they range from very tall ones, these are 8 foot tall, to very, very small ones the size of your finger. The very small ones are very high notes, and the tallest ones are low notes. Now I'm standing way back in the chamber. In fact, I'm pretty close to overlooking where the choir sits, just below me to my right. And there's a number of things that you can see in this part of the chamber as well. One is, of course, whenever you see a pipe laying out, not on a rack, it means that that's a pipe that we've pulled because we can't make it stop from sounding. Another thing to notice is that we have banks of speakers behind me, and that's again sounding some of those electronic sounds of the organ. And near my feet are some really big speakers for the really low sounds of the electronic sounds of the organ. The last thing I would want to point out is that notice that there's another level of floor here right next to where the openings to looking down to where the choir sits. And so for right now, I'm just going to call this a shelf. And this is going to become very important architecturally in a possible new organ design. The fact that there's a shelf right here overlooking the choir. So one of the basic functions of a pipe organ is the delivery of the air. The air is generated from the blower and comes into big bellows. Bellows help to pressurize the air to make sure it remains at a constant pressure and deliver the air to all the different chests that the pipes sit on. You see that this bellow is like an accordion. It expands as it fills with air, and that helps to create the correct pressure. You notice that its seams are all made out of leather, and you notice that the most typical place for that leather to start to go bad is in the corners. We've made excellent use of duct tape and extra leather to help seal cracks and holes in the corners of the bellows. This is the beast that actually supplies all of the air to the pipe organ. This is the blower of the pipe organ. It's industrial, as you can see, and it feeds all of the air going up. The pipe organ is above us. This is actually tucked in behind the baptistry, believe it or not. And it's a problem because it has to work so hard to provide the air for all that's escaping upstairs right now. And it's an old industrial unit, so it's very, very noisy. We always make sure that all the doors around this are closed. And the fact that it's tucked in behind the baptistry is not particularly convenient either. Here's an excellent visible example of how leather controls every step of the way that the air goes from the blower all the way to individual pipes. It goes from the blower to the bellows to chests of air underneath the rack of pipes. And then in order for it to line up with the pipes, when Grant pushes down a stop tab, it pulls a whole slide over to line up the holes with the pipes. And then when he pushes a key, it lines up a more specific hole to go with that specific key's pipe. And so leather is every step of the way along those. Okay, so here's one fun thing to show you while we're up here. I mentioned about how when the leather fails, there are several options that happen. One is that you can't get the pipe to stop sounding. And here's a great example of that. As I lift up this great big pedal pipe, you'll see that I've duct taped the toe of the pipe so that no air can get in. That's because the leather beneath it has failed and the air just flows. We can't make it stop. This has been our solution. Thank you for taking the time to be with us as we get up close and personal with Central's beloved Holtkamp pipe organ. We could not even show you everything that is of concern with our pipe organ. In order to show you the extent of all the leather and mechanicals, we would have to take it apart and show you. As Grant mentioned, there are 2,064 individual pipes up there, and that means that many times more places of leather. With the glimpses you have seen and heard in this video, please know that you are not supposed to hear any air. All that noise is a sign of all the leaks and problems going on. That's the sound of air flooding through holes, and all this can only be rectified with skilled human hands. We know from what is already failing that we are more and more on borrowed time. Though more and more is failing, we have been fortunate in that it has been more around the edges, so not as catastrophic or to many likely even all that noticeable. But we know that it will all fail eventually. Hopefully not dramatically all at once, but more likely little by little. We don't want to be in the situation of not knowing what will fail next or when it will fail. Smaller repairs pile up more and more to the point where it is no longer the reasonable or prudent option. It is past time for a complete renovation. And the time of a big, expensive renovation is also the wisest time to consider whatever enhancements are needed also. We are one of the last of the downtown Lexington churches to give our pipe organ its complete renovation. Christ Church also has a Holtkamp that is 10 years older than ours and did theirs right at its 50-year mark. We are 10 years late, as ours is now 61 years old. First Pres included theirs with major sanctuary and building renovation. Good Shepherd decided to get a whole new organ and spent $1.2 million to do that. Back a number of years ago, when the regional convention of the American Guild of Organists was held right here in Lexington, there were no events held here at Central. Our organ wasn't and isn't in good enough condition. Pipe organ work is very expensive. It is essentially a highly specialized and craftsman-skilled job. It is essentially handmade. Like a Steinway piano is handmade and stained glass is handmade. But it is also long-lasting. Keep in mind that you are getting 50 or as much as 75 years out of it. As our Holcamp was approaching its 50th year, 2 years before it would hit that mark, in 2008, at my request, the administrative board created an organ committee to work on this problem. The organ committee even heard a presentation from Bob Kintner right before he and Sally moved to North Carolina. And the organ committee invited 2 firms to make presentations and bids for our project. Kate Covington and I made a trip to Indianapolis, and Kate Stewart Talbert and I made a trip to Cincinnati to visit representative recent work of the 2 organ firms. In the end, the organ committee decided to pursue our organ project with the Holtkamp Organ Company, which is the company that originally made our pipe organ in 1960, and, as Grant mentioned, is the longest continuously operating organ company in the country. Working with internationally renowned organ consultant and former professor of organ at St. Olaf College, Dr. John Ferguson, who literally wrote the history book on Holtkamp pipe organs, Kate, Grant, and I have worked long and hard to devise just the right renovation and enhancement plan for Central's Holtkamp pipe organ. In addition, since no one else knows this particular pipe organ any better, I have also been in touch with Bob Kintner this whole time. Our newly renovated and enhanced pipe organ will consist of an all-new console with a much more sophisticated computer control system, less fire hose-sized cords, no wings, and no battery. We will remove all the old electronics. No more need for the red dots on the stop tabs because it will all be pipe organ. No more need for the extra battery power supply in the console. In order to do the renovation and enhancement work, the entire organ is removed and goes to Cleveland, where the Holtkamp facility is. It will be there for 6 to 9 months. All the mechanicals will be rebuilt from scratch with new chests that are now built with even much less leather. Good now for 50 to 75 years. Up to 75 years because today's leather is better than 1960s vintage leather. No more duct tape anywhere. We will be reusing nearly all our existing pipes, plus adding some. It goes without saying that we will have everything working again. Every single note will work. Instead of my saying, nope, 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 as you heard me say as Grant's hands and feet went up the keyboard and pedal board, it will be yes, yes, yes. Plus a little more, so we'll seem like we have much more to work with. Everything will have new up-to-code wiring. The old, big, noisy industrial blower will be replaced with an all-new, modern, efficient, quiet, and smaller air blower, which will be up in the chamber. There will be all new air conduits delivering all the air, and we will be rearranging the chamber for many advantages. By no longer stacking 2 of the pipe chests, as you saw up in the chamber, we'll have better and more stable tuning. This is because hot air rises, heating the pipes and making them go sharp. And we will have a chest of pipes on that shelf that I pointed out to you in the chamber, near the choir, with shades to side and front, so that it's sounding out both to the choir and to the congregation. And all those shades will be more effective with better designed shades themselves. We will have more variety within the individual sounds, so we don't have to choose just turning all the stops on or having to paint with one color. What will we do while the pipe organ is gone? We are assembling a substitute digital organ heard through our new high-quality sound system speakers. This special kind of digital system, with digitally sampled recorded sounds from the great pipe organs around the world, came to our attention, believe it or not, during the pandemic as the perfect temporary solution. We noticed online that major organists from around the world were assembling this digital organ for use from their living rooms, leading their cathedral online worship services, and even giving recitals. Think of it this way. We would never want to replace our big, amazing Steinway grand piano with an electronic keyboard, but in a pinch, a high-quality digital piano can serve a purpose and help out. Rest assured that a suitable substitute will be in place for those months of worship, weddings, and funerals without our Holtkamp pipe organ. To me, with this Holtkamp renovation and enhancement project, we are preserving the legacy of those that have gone before us at Central, like Herb Sled and Bob Kintner. A pipe organ originally made by Walter Holtkamp Sr., now remade by his grandson Chris, after the company having previously passed through Chris's dad, Walter Holtkamp Jr.'s hands. And we are creating a bright new future for those that will come after us. And this is a key component to assure Central will have top quality music leadership for the next generation, because you will be able to recruit the best to follow me, because this major organ project will have already been done. Thank you for your generosity and for each and every one of your part in getting up and close and personal with Central's beloved top quality Holtkamp pipe organ.